I'm Angela Harkness, Westford's town moderator. Thank you to all of you who were able to make it here today. I particularly want to welcome those of you who may not have attended before or who have only been to one or two town meetings in the past. We look forward to new points of view, to your questions and comments, and most importantly, to your votes. We will be voting on 19 articles today, determining, as the legislative body of this town, how our tax dollars are spent and some of the rules we live by here in Westford. In a democracy, every vote you cast is important. Here at town meeting, your voice and your vote affect issues that are closest to all of our everyday lives. Thank you to our town manager, Jody Ross, town staff, and our buildings and facilities staff who have again arranged things so that we'll all be comfortable and safe as we exercise our responsibility to vote. I can't tell you how good a job these guys do. They really make me look good. Please note that there are tents along the sides for those who may need to get out of the elements, and there's a first aid tent also available to those in need. Bathrooms are in the back to my left and also inside the Westford Academy building. We have some new things going on here today, instituted in an effort to make attendance easier. There's a family-friendly area in the back where you see the two tents on the right and the left. Can you wave there from the family-friendly area? Yeah. You can spread out a bit more if you wish back there. Additionally, we have meeting mentors on the sidelines. Can I have the mentors stand up and raise their hands, please? There's one on each side. Here we go. If you have a procedural question and you don't wish to approach the microphone, you can first try one of these mentors and they'll see if they can assist you and get your answer without your having to speak out. They're all wearing buttons that say, "Ask me about town meeting." Also, as I've already said a couple of times, the Twisted Pickle food truck will be in the back, and they'll be there when we break for lunch, so you won't have to leave the grounds to eat. One more thing. In an effort to move the meeting along, we have installed a town meeting speaker clock, which you can see up here at the front. This clock will note when a speaker has held the microphone for more than 2 minutes. We're not going to have a hook that yanks you out. It's meant to be self-regulating. It's just so you know that you've spoken for more than 2 minutes and will hopefully voluntarily wrap it up. Most people don't speak anywhere near 2 minutes, so really it shouldn't be a problem. I'm not discouraging anyone from speaking or making their points. This clock will just let you know how long you've been at the microphone. When you do stand up, please follow the instructions on each mic. State your name and address, keep your comments brief and to the point. Do not repeat what others have already said. And if you have previously spoken on an issue, let others who have not speak first. When you checked in, you were given an orange voter card like this one and a handheld clicker like this one. If you don't have either of these things, you need to go back to the tellers and they'll sort you out. Please do not leave Westford Academy with your clicker. You can go to your car, you can go to the restrooms or to the food truck, but do not leave the grounds with the clicker in your pocket. If you leave for any reason, even if you intend to come back, you need to hand the clicker into the tellers and get a new one when you come back. At the end of the meeting, the clickers must be returned to the boxes. And please, again, do not leave with the clickers in your pocket. There are microphones by which any speaker can speak after being recognized by the moderator. If you wish to speak, you can use whatever microphone is closest to you. There are 2 in the center and 1 on either side. Unless given special permission by the meeting, non-voters may not address the meeting, and under no circumstances may they vote. You will either be voting by holding up your orange voter card or by using your clicker. If Article 1, regarding the clicker use, passes, I'll give further instructions on that method. Otherwise, when I call for the vote, I'll first ask that those in favor hold up their orange cards. Then I'll ask you to put your cards down and ask the no votes to hold up their cards. Please hold your cards high so that I can see them. We will be working from this pollen-colored special town meeting motions booklet. The motions booklet has the wordings of all the motions we'll be discussing today and the recommendations of the relevant town boards. If you don't have a pollen-colored motions booklet, you can get one now at the table behind me. If you'd like to follow online, you can go to westfordma.gov/ATM2022 or use the QR code printed on the motions booklet. We have 2 housekeeping motions before we begin. First, non-voters may not address the meeting without your permission. Therefore, I will ask now that the town meeting allow those folks to address the meeting. These would be town employees, town council, and town-hired consultants who are not Westford voters, but who will be participating in our discussion by virtue of their positions, by making presentations, and by answering questions. May I have a motion to allow those individuals to address the meeting? Is there a second? This requires 2/3 of the meeting. All in favor, please raise your orange voting cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Secondly, your motions booklet has been printed, in your motions booklet has been printed the full text of the motions we'll be voting on. Rather than having to read every word aloud before each motion is discussed, may I have a motion to accept the wording as it is printed in the motions booklet for each article? Is there a second? All in favor, please raise your cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Finally, with due respect for the value of the time of every person attending here today, I nevertheless want to emphasize that every question is welcome. Feel free to ask about the facts of any article or the particulars of any process we're following. If you have a question about something, it's likely someone else on the field does as well. We live in a democracy, but to make it work, we have to work for it. And democracy works best when the greatest number of people participate. So I hope you enjoy your experience here today and leave feeling you've accomplished something. Next time, I hope you'll bring a friend. Before we go to Article 1, I'm going to call on the town manager to introduce some new employees in town.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce our new Community Wellness Coordinator, Nicole Lavalette. Welcome. It's a new position. And we've had 4 promotions to department heads that I'd like to introduce. Ray Dick for the Health Director, Michelle Collette, Recreation Director, Mark Warren, Water Superintendent, and Jeff Goodwin, Facilities Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. And now if everyone can please turn to page 3 of your pollen-colored motions booklet and Article 1. Under Article 1, I have a motion for approval of the tabulation of votes at this town meeting using electronic vote tabulators. Is there a second? At annual town meeting in 2019, voters passed a resolution requesting that the town look into the possibility of electronic vote counting. In October of that same year, a system was presented to special town meeting for review, but the voters were not comfortable supporting it at that time. While such systems were not in widespread use back then, they have since become very popular, and today over 70 Massachusetts towns use electronic vote tabulators, or EVTs, to count their votes at town meeting. In 2021, the Select Board authorized further investigation into the use of EVTs, which has included communications with other communities who use clickers, review of various reports from those communities and from the Mass Moderators Association about their experiences, and interviews with several product vendors. This research has shown the system we are considering today to be affordable, simple to use, reliable, secure, and anonymous. I'd like to take a moment here at this time to thank Mike Wells, Tom Barry, and Steve Edwards for their assistance in gathering and evaluating this information and conducting the vendor reviews. A hand-counted vote at town meetings can take about 20 minutes. That same vote, tabulated by electronic devices, takes 90 seconds. Hand counts are not unusual, occurring either when requested by 7 voters or when the vote is too close for the moderator to call. Secret ballots also occur with some frequency, whenever requested by 20 voters, and because of the necessity of handing out and collecting the ballots and counting each one by opening and looking at it, secret ballots take even longer to count than regular hand-counted votes. An average town meeting may have as many as 3 standard hand-counted votes, which would add at least a full hour to the length of the meeting. The product being considered today works on a closed system using a dedicated computer that is not connected to Wi-Fi or the internet in any way, making it very secure. Votes cast by electronic tabulators are also anonymous. Your vote is private and yours alone, and votes counted in this way will automatically and always fulfill the secret ballot request. The system mechanically calculates a 2/3 or any other kind of majority necessitated, eliminating the risk of mathematical error. It also completely does away with the risks inherent in the moderator having to estimate whether a voice, standing, or hold up your card vote goes one way or the other when the vote is close. In addition to myself and Director of Technology Mike Wells, a representative from the vendor, Meridia, Sean McPeak, is here today to answer any questions and help us run the system. If you support the use of clickers by passing Article 1, they'll be used to count the votes for the remainder of the meeting whenever a hand count is requested or required. I'll be happy to take any questions about this. At the microphone to my right.
Morning, Kathy Lynch on Rush Road. I have a comment. I'm concerned about electronic vote tabulators because electronic systems are hackable and trackable. Many of us have had the experience of having our email or social media hacked. Just recently, mine was. In a close vote, I am more comfortable with paper. Electronic votes are hidden from all of us as opposed to using paper ballots, seeing who holds up a card, hearing the voices shout out aye or nay, or doing a visual count. On controversial votes where there may be significant pressure from the promoters of the article who have an agenda or a conflict of interest, this is particularly concerning. The following question is very important because the process we use will determine election integrity moving forward. How can we verify that each of our votes was tallied correctly? We would be relying on blind trust with no way for each of us to verify the result of the vote. One way to do that would be to make our votes public so we can see how we and others voted and then do the math ourselves. If that's what we need to do, I'm all for that. If we want to go with anonymity, keep in mind that mobile devices can be used for tracking, especially when the company can hide this fact behind the term proprietary technology. Metalocator.com describes geolocation as a wireless tracking of the physical location of a mobile device to determine the exact location of people in your locality. They admit, like any other trending technology, geolocation has privacy and security concerns, and GPS data could fall into the wrong hands. So I do not recommend switching to electronic tabulating devices and urge people to vote no if they want to maintain control of their vote with verifiable results. The only way I see we can use clickers while verifying the results is to make this public, whether it is using the current way we do things, or we do things, or going to a publicly recorded vote.
Thank you, Kathy. I just want to point out that, again, that this system is not connected to Wi-Fi or to the internet in any way. It's a closed system that uses radio frequency and not either of those other two things. So there really is no way to hack into it. I think I'm also going to let Sean McPeak from the vendor talk a little bit about the security of the system.
Would you like me here or there?
It's better if you could go out there, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean McPeak. I'm with Meridia. We're a Philadelphia company. We've been in business now for 50 years. The technology of the system has been audited and verified by the federal government. It is currently in place in the United States House of Representatives. And before it can get into the halls of Congress, it has the entire federal government scrutiny to get into operate into that building. It's also currently used by the New Hampshire House of Representatives on the floor. They've been using it now for 2 years, and before it could be installed in the New Hampshire House of Representatives, it also had the entire scrutiny of the New Hampshire government. It is currently used by the U.S. military, specifically the Department of the Naval Warfare Intelligence, to promote leadership. And of course, before it could be done into that organization that had the full scrutiny of the Naval Intelligence Committee. It's currently used in 50 towns in Massachusetts. Each of those towns had their own public scrutiny of the system. And like your moderator said, it is completely separated from the internet. So there is no internet connectivity. It is simply a closed-loop radio frequency system that has its own level of encryption. It is very secure, and rather than me say so, you have all of the institutions I just mentioned to you who certified the technology.
Thank you, Sean. At the center microphone in front.
Denali Delmar, 8 Dunstable Road. When this first came up a few years ago, I had a lot of questions. I was lucky enough to be in a demonstration a week ago about this, and I'm convinced that it's very reliable and trustworthy. I also felt very strongly about our being able to raise our hands. And please, Madam Moderator, tell me if I've got this correct, that you have decided that we will continue to raise our cards unless it's too hard to call, or unless people call for a more accurate tabulation.
That is the way the article is written, that the electronic vote tabulators would be used when voting is either requested or required.
Thank you.
The method of voting is within the discretion of the moderator, but I particularly wanted this article to come forward to ensure that the town was on board if we were going to make this change. At the center microphone in the back.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. June McMorrow, 8 Kings Pine Road. And I wanted to ask you a question about the anonymity of this. When I just checked in, they noted what clicker I took and wrote that next to my name. So how anonymous is this really? And what will you do with that information after the fact? Thank you.
The teller's designation of what clicker you have will remain in the town clerk's office until we know that the clickers have been returned. It's only so that if a clicker is missing, we know who to contact to ask them to bring it back. It is not in any way connected with the voting and the computer that's accepting those votes. Does that answer your question, June?
Thank you.
At the microphone on the left.
Alan Martin, Meadow Lane. I have 3 questions. Does the town government commit to reveal the actual vote counts for all uses of the clickers rather than merely pass or fail?
I think he needs to, if we have.
We typically always read how much.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Second, is there provision for a bipartisan committee to review the configuration of the system the morning of every town meeting to ensure that it's configured fairly?
The system will be reviewed at every town meeting by the technology department of the town. They'll be in charge of making sure that it's functioning correctly.
Okay. And the third question is, can you now verify, Madam Moderator, that the laptop running Easy Connect software on it to your right is in airplane mode?
Can I ask you to?
It's not connected to the
you want me to just answer that?
Yes.
Yes, and in addition, it is not connected to the internet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, to the right.
Thank you. Alex Gonzalez, 2 Elm Street. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've been counting votes manually for over 230 years, but that's not why we should continue. Voting machines, which is essentially what these clickers are, have been a contentious issue. Even in our last local election in May, we had issues with the Dominion voting machines spitting back ballots. Are we really going to trade convenience for trust? Let's remove any doubt or fear from the equation, and let's continue to count votes at town meeting manually.
Thank you. Just a point, one of the things that the Access to Town Meeting Committee has discovered is that a reason that people don't attend town meeting is because of the length of the meeting. So an important part of shortening up the meeting is to bring more people into the process and ensure the participation in our democracy of as many people as possible.
Eric Kintner, 14 Village View Road. Just as a matter of perhaps reassurance for some people, the motion here says that we will use the clickers at this town meeting only. Future town meetings, that will be a separate decision.
Again, the discretion about what the method of voting is going to be belongs with the moderator. However, I would not impose anything without at least having the opinion of town meeting here and a use that we can all look back on and say, this went well, this didn't.
Thank you.
Dennis.
Okay. Dennis Galvin, 90 Concord Road. Thank you, Madam Moderator. First of all, I want to appreciate your efforts at trying to communicate this and try to expedite and make this more efficient. There are a few wider considerations, though, I think we should consider. Basically, we're talking about changing a long-standing practice that bears directly on the credibility and the integrity of the town meeting. And in my 40 years of participation with this body, I can say that there has never been an issue with voter impropriety. Most votes are readily accountable, usually through an yay or nay or through a show of hands, and only a small number really become contentious, and those do take some time, but good things like voter integrity are worth waiting for. You mentioned the issue about increased participation and voter suppression. I think in 40 years, we have moved this meeting all over the calendar to try to get people to come in, and it always comes back to the same thing. Those people that think this is important come, and those people that don't come. The implication that this is somehow voter suppression or or lack of participation is unfair. It's a question of priority and choice. And I don't think we can be blind to some of the controversy that we're reading about with regards to the concerns over elections, particularly with electronics. I think the prudent thing for us to do is keep this simple. And I'll simply close by saying that, I hate to say it, but I feel more secure when Paul Murray comes up that tells me that I lost a very important vote than the Meridian Electronics Company. Not that I have anything against them, but I've known Paul Murray and I've trusted Paul Murray for years. And that's the essence of local democracy. So I would suggest that we hold back on voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. At the microphone to let's go to the microphone in the rear in the center.
Hi, Liz Sherry, 10 Collimore Drive. I would like to know maybe 3 questions. Have we already bought these clickers? What is the long-term financial contract monies involved with these clickers regarding computer updating, loss of clickers? Sounds like we'll have to be paying out of pocket with our tax-paying dollars forever if we go with these clickers. So have we paid for them? If so, how much? And how much will it cost infinitively?
We've rented the clickers for this meeting, the cost of which is approximately $4,000. We can buy the system if this meeting feels that's appropriate, if after this meeting, the Select Board feels that's appropriate, with the $4,000 being applied to a total $12,000 cost, the system lasts approximately 10 years. There's very little in the way of maintenance except for replacement of the batteries, which last several years and cost about 17 cents a piece. Does that answer the questions?
What about replacing the clickers? And what's the contract involved?
There's no contract other than the purchase. Each clicker costs about $30 to replace.
And there's an optional maintenance plan of $495 after year one.
Sorry, I'm being told there's an optional maintenance plan of approximately $500 a year after year one.
Thank you.
To my right?
Kathy Panetta-Creed. Madam Moderator, you mentioned that 70 towns are using these clickers. It's my understanding that we have approximately 351 towns in our state. So that's only a 20% towns that are using it. So I feel like that's a small percentage, and I think it would be better if we waited.
So,
Thank you.
just a point, not all towns and cities have town meetings. I was trying to get the number for how many towns.
Yes, many have representatives, but I'm not sure.
Right. Sorry, we don't know that number, but it's not 351 towns that have town meetings. And many of the towns that have town meetings have representative town meetings as opposed to open town meeting the way we do. Really, the number to compare would be how many towns have open town meeting. I'm sorry, I can't give you that number. I don't know if anybody else knows offhand. No.
Yeah, if you can find out, that would be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Erica?
Erica Cole, 4 Francis Hill Road. Thank you, Madam Moderator. And thank you also for all your intensive investigation into the security question. Much of your work has gone a long way to make me feel more comfortable with these devices. I did have one concern that we had discussed previously regarding the physical security of both devices and the server when they are not in use here. And I also wanted to have just one more question about the updates to the software, whether or not there's any certification process that the software undergoes, and whether those updates are also subjected to that same process before being put onto the server.
I'm going to refer your question about the security of the computer and the devices when they're not in use to Mike Wells.
Hello there, Mike Wells. I'm the IT director for the town and schools. So our intention would be to take a new laptop or a repurposed laptop and wipe it and build an operating system specially for this, and having proved that it works, probably never touch it again. It's not going to be connected to the internet, so it's not subject to any possibility of hacking. We don't care about security vulnerabilities because it's not going to be on the internet. We would have a system specially built for this purpose. Probably wouldn't last 10 years, but we'd probably have to replace it halfway through.
Would it be under lock and key, for instance, between town meetings, so that no one?
It'll be in the IT department, which is locked up normally, yes. But I mean, yes, other people in the IT department would potentially have access to it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And your second question about updates, there are updates issued a couple of times a year. They're completely optional, not required. If we have the $500 a year guarantee system, that would be included.
Okay, and are they certified in any way that through perhaps the Secretary of State's office? Or?
Well, I imagine any of those organizations that Sean mentioned that accept an update would only accept it under the same circumstances. Is that, am I understanding?
I guess, does the basic one also have some certification from the attorney, sorry?
The Attorney General's office does not certify voting systems at town meetings, only voting systems that are used in elections. I actually contacted them directly about that.
And thank you for doing so. Thank you.
To my left, is there somebody there? Yeah, to my left.
Thank you. Michelle Martin, Meadow Lane. I actually did try and look into how many towns have open town meetings. Mass.gov says most, which isn't helpful. So I did on Wikipedia find a list of all the towns in form of government dated 2020. And on that list, it was 260.
I'm just being passed a note that there are 263 towns with open
Okay.
town meeting. 26% of those towns are now using clickers.
Okay, thank you. And my other comment is, you did mention a couple of key details that I think should have been in the motion, like the fact that it's only for 2/3 votes or hand counts of close calls. That would have been helpful to have in here. Thank you.
To my right,
Eileen Tatro, 15 Oak Road. My pronouns are she, they, and I would like to call the question.
we have a motion to end debate and call the question. So we need to take that without any further debate. If you vote yes, by raising your orange card when I ask for it, you'll be voting to terminate the discussion and move forward to a vote on Article 1. If you vote no, you'll be voting to continue the discussion for some further time. So, sorry, is there a second to the motion to terminate debate? Thank you, Greb. He keeps me honest. Okay, all in favor of terminating debate, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed to terminating debate? The motion passes. So we now move to a vote on the main motion, which is to authorize the use of electronic vote tabulators at this town meeting. All in favor of the motion under Article 1, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes by a majority. It is not unanimous. Before moving to the consent agenda, I'd like to recognize the chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, Mike Berlinski. Pursuant to a resolution passed at special town meeting in October of 2020, this committee has provided a plan for Westford to reach certain goals regarding greenhouse gas emissions, and Mike is here to deliver a report on their progress.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm Mike Berlinski, Chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. The committee was established by the Select Board last year and charged with guiding the town towards its goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, following town resolution at town meeting in October 2020. As part of that resolution, annual reports were required, and I am here to give that report. One of the first things we did was create a net zero roadmap subcommittee to focus on this work. It created the first Westford Net Zero Roadmap in November 2021, which is available on our committee website. The roadmap includes guidance for Westford's government, residents, and businesses to achieve net zero by 2050. This initial version of the roadmap will be updated occasionally. The roadmap includes an initial greenhouse gas emissions inventory for the town. That shows buildings are responsible for a majority of the greenhouse gas emissions, about 60%. Energy efficiency and electrification are important strategies there. Transportation is the second major source of emissions, making up about 40%. Electrification is important there too. So what has been done in town, and more importantly, how can we work together to achieve net zero? For buildings, our town government has done a great job of getting state grants for energy efficiency improvements in government and school buildings. Also, various groups are exploring net zero options for new building projects, including Town Center Building, also known as 51 Main Street. And town staff have recently been working on improvements for the Cameron Senior Center and a comprehensive municipal building energy audit, both of which are on the agenda today. But municipal buildings only make up a small amount of the emissions for the town. So it's important for residents and businesses to consider their energy choices. For electricity, the Westford Power Options Program, or POP, offers residents and businesses options to increase renewable energy use above the state minimum. Some great news is that the state continues to make available free energy audits for homes and businesses. And the state has increased funding for some improvements, including electric heat pumps for heating and cooling. Part of our committee's work is to encourage folks to consider improvements like an electric heat pump when replacing a furnace, and to help get the word out about available options and incentives. For transportation, last year our town government received grants and installed electric vehicle charging stations at Town Hall, Abbott, and Westford Academy, and has been exploring purchasing hybrid and electric vehicles for its fleet. We encourage folks to consider an electric vehicle when they are looking at purchasing a car. Another important area is protecting natural resources, which can help sequester greenhouse gases. We encourage everyone to fill out the town's tree and invasive species survey on the from the Land Use Management Department. It's open now and available on the town website. To help get the word out, we have been presenting our roadmap to other municipal and community groups in town. We held a public forum on April 27th. A recording is available on our committee website. We are asking for feedback on the roadmap. Please read it, check out the presentation, and provide your feedback to our committee. If you have a group that would be interested in a presentation on the roadmap, please let us know. Another thing you can do is to get involved. By that, I mean attend town meeting, check. Follow discussions at the select board and other committees, including ours. We have been meeting about twice a month virtually, and encourage you all to participate, attend, follow our activities. The implementation of our recommendations to get to net zero must involve understanding and buy-in from you. We look forward to hearing from you and working with you as we create this path to a net zero future for Westford. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you to Mike and the climate action warriors on this committee for steering us towards net zero. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda proposed consists of Articles 2, 3, 4, 12, and 19. These are articles that repeat year after year or that are routine and non-controversial in nature. Therefore, we can vote on them all at once instead of voting on each article separately. However, if anyone has a question or a concern about any of these articles, I would ask you to please say "hold" loudly from your seat when I read through the list of proposed consent agenda items. Is there a second to the consent agenda? I'll now read through the list of the 5 proposed consent agenda articles. Again, please say "hold" to any item for which you have a question or would like further discussion. Article 2, to accept the reports from officers, boards, and committees in the 2022 annual report. Article 3, to appropriate $234,223 from free cash to supplement the 2022 snow and ice budget. Article 4, to appropriate $45,000 from free cash to continue to address perchlorate contamination. I hear a hold on that. Article 12, to appropriate Chapter 90 funds due to the town for roadway maintenance. Article 19, to authorize the Conservation Commission to lease Hill Orchard for a period of up to 5 years. All right, I heard no holds for Articles 2, 3, 12, or 19. So let's vote on those, and then we'll come back to the article there was a hold on. If you are in favor of the consent agenda, which now consists of 2, 3, 12, and 19, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. If you're opposed. The consent agenda passes unanimously. So let's go back to Article 4, to appropriate $45,000 from free cash to continue to address perchlorate contamination. Will the person with the hold approach the microphone? Thank you.
Denali Delmar, 8 Dunstable Road. How long ago did this perchlorate contamination happen, and how much longer will we need to work on remediation?
Jody? Jody Ross, Town Manager.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So the contamination occurred around '04, and we started remediation around '08, '09, which is right when I started. So we've been managing this plume since that time. We actually are just getting ready to close it out. However, Eric and I were notified last week that there is one well that previously had not tested above the limit, so we have to investigate whether that was a fluke, but we're hopeful that this will be closed out within the next year or so. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on Article 4? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote on Article 4. All in favor, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? Article 4 passes unanimously. Having disposed of Articles 2, 3, and 4 on the consent agenda, we'll now move to Article 5. There are 5 distinct motions under Article 5, and we'll be considering them separately. The first motion under Article 5 is to appropriate certain sums from free cash, water enterprise retained earnings, and the ambulance enterprise retained earnings in order to provide for particular capital expenses and costs incidental and related thereto. Is there a second for the first motion of Article 5? Thank you. I'll read through the list of amounts being requested and the purposes the funds are requested for. Please say hold if you have a question on any item, and we'll discuss and vote on that item separately. Are we ready? From technology, the first motion is that the town appropriate from free cash the sum of $1,492,796 to provide for the following capital requests. From technology, $46,000 for town computer replacement. $106,796 for school computer replacements. $193,000 for network upgrades. $102,000 for server and storage replacements. From Westford Public Schools, $250,000 for the Westford Public Schools Central Office Feasibility and Redistricting Study. $90,000 for replacement of the refrigerator and freezer. Was there a hold on that? The previous one, okay. The $250 for the Westford Public Schools feasibility, okay, got it. $90,000 to replace the refrigerator and freezer at the Rita E. Miller School. $56,000 to purchase and equip a mail courier vehicle for Westford Public Schools. Is that a hold? Okay. When you hold, can you please hold your card up? It's just, thank you. Just so I make sure I'm not missing anybody. $49,000 to purchase, $49,000 to purchase and equip a replacement truck with plow. From engineering, $100,000 for Boston Road appraisals. Is that a hold? Yep. $45,000 for design of the West Street and East Prescott Street pedestrian safety improvements. $40,000 for the design and construction of Carlisle Road at Jack Walsh Recreation Area pedestrian safety improvements. $70,000 for the design of the Plain Road Phase 2 pedestrian safety improvements. From Highway, $65,000 to purchase and equip a one-ton dump truck with plow. From wastewater, $270,000 for the Lloyd G. Blanchard Middle School wastewater treatment plant rehabilitation. And from the library, $10,000 for cost estimating for the J.V. Fletcher Library renovation and expansion project. Moving on, from the water retained earnings, the sum of $425,000 to provide for the following capital requests. $275,000 for the Depot Street well replacement, $150,000 for the Forge Village Water Treatment Plant dehumidifier replacement. And finally, from free cash, the sum of $49,000, and from the ambulance enterprise retained earnings, the sum of $24,000 to provide for the following capital request: to purchase and equip 2 rescue boats, $73,000. Okay. Let's vote on the items for which there was no hold. All in favor of approving those items for which there was no hold, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Let's go back to the items for which there was a hold. The first one I have is $250,000 for the Westford Public Schools Central Office Feasibility and Redistricting Study. Can the person with the hold please approach the microphone? Oh, there we go.
Cheryl Longton, Daniel Drive. I just wanted to understand what's involved in the $250,000.
Superintendent Chu will address that issue.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So the purpose of the feasibility study is for us to engage with a company to help us look at a master plan for the entire district, to look at the space utilization of all of our buildings, to see if we might look to see if there is space within any of our existing schools that we might be able to move the central office into one of the schools. We also would just want to look at the overall demographics with the changing neighborhoods in town, to look to see whether our current districting of the elementary schools and the middle schools is appropriate. And another aspect of that, they would help us to look to see what the future anticipated growth would look like in the town. So the $250,000 would be the cost based on 3 different quotes that we had seen as estimates. So if it's approved, then we would go out in the process to then find a firm that we would work with to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions on that issue? Okay. The next item I have a hold on is to purchase and equip the mail courier vehicle for the Westford Public Schools. Will the person with the hold please approach the mic?
Emily Teller, 9 Texas Road. Angela, do you want to vote on that school one before we go on?
I'm going to see if we can.
Okay.
Hey, you might be right, Emily. Let's go ahead and vote on the one that we just had the explanation for, the Westford Public Schools Central Office Feasibility and Redistricting Study. All in favor of that, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Passes by a majority. Okay, now your question for the next one.
I'm speaking about the mail courier vehicle, purchase and equip. I'm a member of Westford Climate Action, and at our last meeting, they tasked me to speak to this item. Basically, it's just to say thank you. We understand that it will be an electric vehicle, and we're very encouraged to see progress like this on the town budget. along with the police hybrid vehicles, Westford is moving in that direction, and we know that other departments and divisions will be looking for electric vehicles in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. Any other questions or concerns about that? All right, all in favor of the mail courier vehicle, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. I had a hold on the Boston Road appraisals.
Erica Cole, 4 Francis Hill Road. Just wondering what those are about. Why are we appraising Boston Road?
Steve Cronin. Steve, can you identify yourself for those?
Sure. Steve Cronin, Director of Public Works. So the town has been working on the design for a project to reconstruct Boston Road from the town center all the way down to Route 495. Includes a full reconstruction of the road and replacement of all the infrastructure as well as pedestrian safety improvements. This request is for appraisals that are necessary to determine the eminent domain compensation related to the temporary and permanent easements we'll need to construct the project. There's 35 parcels in the town's layout that'll need to be appraised.
Any other questions or concerns on that one?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Denali.
Denali Delmar, 8 Dunstable Road. One of the questions coming up later is about changing our speed limits or allowing the selectmen to do that. Right now, Boston Road is it's a speedway, essentially. And I would like to strongly urge people who are redesigning Boston Road to put in speed bumps. A lot of us complain about people cutting through Westford to get to Route 3. And we would probably have fewer if we enforce the speed limits that we have, for one. And when Boston Road is reconstructed, by all means, let's put in some crosswalks and let's put in some speed bumps or whatever is required to dampen the speed. Thank you.
Thank you, Denali. Any other questions or concerns? All right, all in favor of the Boston Road appraisals, please raise your hand, raise your cards in your hands. Down, please. All opposed? The article passes. It is not unanimous. All right, we're now at the second motion under Article 5, which requests that the town appropriate the sum of $1,040,000 to upgrade the public safety radio system to fully digital, and that the town be authorized to borrow and issue bonds therefore. Is there a second for the second motion under Article 5? Thank you. Steve, are you going to speak to that, or Joe Targ? Fire Chief Joe Targ.
Well, I'm my technical advisor, Lieutenant Hvac from the Fire Department. This upgrade is for both police and fire. We have not been able to do any kind of upgrade because this is T-band stations since 2013. Legislation was signed recently to allow it to be taken out of auction. So now we're able to we've only been doing repairs. This would be a full upgrade on police and fire, basically.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. This motion requires a 2/3 majority to pass, and so we'll be using our, oh, sorry.
Thank you.
George Murray, the microphone to my left.
Just a question.
It seems like all over the country, we're spending millions of dollars to upgrade radio systems, and then we find out they don't communicate with each other. And the question I have specifically is, does this include ambulance and first responders as well as fire and police?
It does. Police, fire, ambulance, rescue, yes.
See another question to my left.
Scott Saray, Sassafras Road. What is the urgent and compelling need for this system over and above what we have today?
We've only been replacing what's been broken. The existing system runs on 2-wire copper from the phone company and is basically non-existent. The new, we have to convert to Ethernet or network compatible stuff, and it just doesn't work good. It doesn't function properly.
Can you state that in terms of an operational need? What services can't you perform now?
The communications is definitely weak in areas. You can't hear people with portable radios calling into dispatch is the problem.
I can hear them all the way out in Fitchburg when I'm out there.
No. Do you have a question? Or? Okay. Any other questions? Yep.
Hi, Marisol Garcia, 53 Pleasant Street. My question is about the technology, because as we know, you were just talking about the radio signals, but there are also issues with the digital technology, and I'm wondering, just because of the safety of the residents, and I know that there are aspects to the 911 calls that help you locate folks who are in danger or unsafe. What steps have been taken to ensure that the technology is equal or better to locating folks in our community who might not be safe?
This won't affect the 911, the call system at all. It's basically dispatched to the police cruisers or the fire trucks or the ambulance.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Seeing no other questions, I'll call for the vote. So again, because this requires a 2/3 majority, we're going to be using our clickers. So if you want to vote yes on the motion, after I tell you that the vote is open, you'll press the green 1A button on your clicker. When you press that button, you'll see an OK in the little LED screen on the top right. That shows you that your vote has registered, okay? If you want to vote no, you'll press the red 2A button. Same thing will happen. You'll see the OK. If at any time before the vote is closed, when I tell you the vote is closed, you want to change your mind, you can do that simply by pressing the other button. The last button that you press before the vote is closed is the vote that will be registered with the system. If you press any of these other 3 buttons, the 3C, the 4D, the 5E, you will not be voting. Nothing will register for those 3 buttons, so if you press any of those, you lose. I can't hear. I'm sorry, Emily. Was there a second? Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think Marilyn did too. Okay. Question at the microphone.
What is the top button for?
Another non-button button. You do not have to press that little airplane to send your vote. It looks as though you do, but you don't. When you press either the red button or the green button, you're going to see the OK, and that will show that your vote has been sent. Question.
Hi. My question is, what would happen if, for example, there's no abstention option, but like a majority of people abstained, but then there's no way to register it, so in theory...
We do not have abstentions in our votes at Westford Town Meeting. The majority is the majority of the people who vote. A 2/3 majority would be a 2/3 majority of the people who vote. We do not have abstentions. If you were voting by hand and you didn't raise your hand, you simply would not be counted.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Cheryl McGrath, Jarvis Way. Why are the other buttons all on here then? It seems to me that it's very, very confusing to one that if you hit, oop, I hit that, oh, I meant that, and then I did that. Why isn't it just yes or no then, to the simplicity of it? It seems very confusing to me. Thank you.
The green yes and red no are the only two buttons that work. The other buttons are on here for other uses, which we are not using here in Westford.
The town has the option to buy a faceplate that covers all buttons but yes and no for $500.
If this is confusing, we can buy faceplates that will cover all the other buttons except for the red and the green at an additional cost.
$500.
Any other questions? Okay. The vote is now open. You can take the next 30 seconds to press either yes if you approve of the motion under, the second motion under Article 5, or the red no if you don't. We're voting on the second motion under Article 5, which is to appropriate $1,040,000 to upgrade the public radio system in the town.
All right, slowing down, I'll give him 10 seconds.
'27 Mississippi, 28 Mississippi. Okay, I'm going to close the vote in the next 2 seconds. Okay, voting is now closed.
201 yes, 43 no.
The motion passes by 2/3. The vote is 201 yes, 43 no. There, that wasn't so bad. All right, the third motion under Article 5 requests that the town appropriate the sum of $670,000 for Plain Road pedestrian safety improvements, and that the town be authorized to borrow and issue bonds therefore. Is there a second? Steve Cronin, can you explain that?
Steve Cronin, Director of Public Works. This is a project that's been prioritized by the Pedestrian Safety Committee, and it's to construct a sidewalk and pedestrian safety improvements along Plain Road from Nutting Road to the Grassy Pond Conservation Area. I mean, to Stony Brook Conservation. No, Grassy Pond, correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. This is also a 2/3 vote. So we'll be using our clickers again. Voting is now open. I'm sorry, were there any questions or comments about that? I'm seeing none. Voting is now open. If you're in favor of the third motion under Article 5, press the green yes. If you're against the third motion under Article 5, press the red no. And the motion is for the town to appropriate the sum of $670,000 for Plain Road pedestrian safety improvements. Voting is open. Be closing the vote in 5 seconds. Voting is now closed.
211 yes, 29 no. The motion passes by 2/3.
The motion passes by a 2/3 majority. The vote is 211 yes, 29 no. The fourth motion under Article 5 requests that the town appropriate the sum of $500,000 for design for the replacement of the 185 North Main Street culvert, the 40 Forge Village Road culvert, and the Cold Spring Road culvert near Old Homestead Road, and that the town be authorized to borrow and issue bonds. Therefore, it being the intent of the town that the debt service for this borrowing be paid for from the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. Is there a second to the fourth motion under Article 5? Thank you. Steve?
So the town conducted a culvert assessment study last year and identified a number of high-priority culverts. These are the first 3 culverts that have been identified in the 5-year action plan. So we'll be back with a supplemental request for construction funding at next annual town meeting.
Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. The voting is open. If you want to vote yes for the fourth motion under Article 5, press the green button. If you want to vote no, press the red button. This also requires a 2/3 vote. Voting is open.
Question while we're voting? On your right.
I'm not going to take a question.
No, I just wanted to ask if you could repeat the vote count for the first one we took.
Okay, let's, after this vote.
Give 10 seconds.
We're closing the vote in 5 seconds. Voting is closed.
Motion passes 214 yes, 21 no, 235 total.
The motion passes by a 2/3 majority. The vote is 214 yes, 21 no. Elisa, which vote did you want repeated? The first one,
201. 201.
first vote was 201 yes, 43 no. Yep. Okay. The fifth and final motion under Article 5 requests that the town appropriate from free cash the sum of $80,000 and transfer that amount to the Capital Stabilization Fund. Dan, do you want to? Oh. Jody Ross, Town Manager.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This represents the last 2 $40,000 payments from Robert Walker for the construction of Cornerstone.
Any questions or comments on that? This only requires a majority, so we're back to orange cards. All those in favor, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
Not unanimous.
So, is there a no vote?
His card's up.
So sorry. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Okay, under Article 6, I have 2 motions regarding the Cameron Senior Center HVAC project. The first motion requests that the town appropriate the sum of $1,100,000 for HVAC, energy conservation, and related building improvements at the Cameron Senior Center, and that the town be authorized to borrow said amount and issue bonds therefore. Is there a second to that motion? Jody Ross.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So The Cameron Senior Center has a failing HVAC system, and that's what provides the primary cooling for the building. And we've been using window air conditioning units to provide cooling to the first floor, and the second floor, we're struggling to maintain comfortable temperatures. So in support of the Select Board's sustainability and carbon reduction goals, we're proposing to replace the system with a high-energy HVAC system. And in October of 21, special town meeting appropriated $100,000 to fund the design of the new system. We did hire an engineering firm, consulting engineering services, to do so. In April of 2022, the Permanent Town Building Committee and Clean Energy Sustainability Committee voted unanimously to support the best option in the design of the new system. This is called a heat recovery system, which provides dehumidification, a 10-year warranty, and a 50-year distribution estimated life. It includes the installation of a new heat pump system that will provide efficient cooling and heating to the entire building using electricity. The existing heating system will remain in place and operate as a backup for heating if necessary. The new system is expected to reduce the building's natural gas consumption by over 90% and the total energy consumption by nearly 50%. We are told that the energy savings will save 30 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. CO2, that's carbon dioxide, right? Thank you. This isn't my specialty. Which is the equivalent to taking 6 cars off the road. Again, that's what I'm told, so don't ask me where that came from. The Select Board appropriated $500,000 towards this project from ARPA funds, which is federal and state funding for us for the pandemic. And we're seeking the balance of $1.1 million to be bonded. We also applied for and received $300,000 from a state grant to use towards the cost of this project. So if the bids come in low or at the amount that we're expecting, we can lower that bonding by that amount. The Select Board, Finance Committee, Capital Planning Committee, Permanent Town Building Committee, and Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee have all voted to support this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. See a question at the microphone to my left.
Dennis Galvin, 90 Concord Road. I just wanted to see if we could get an explanation. One of the things in the related to this issue was the management firm. I think it's Amerisource. It's requiring the town to enter into a very extended, I think, 20-year contract. And I know there were a couple of members of the Finance Committee that had a little concern about that kind of a commitment. Maybe you want to speak to it a little bit and try to explain how it works.
Before you do, Jody, I just want to explain to the rest of the meeting that the second part of this motion is what Dennis is talking about, which involves this contract. So it may be best to discuss them both together, and that question will allow us to do that. All right.
So we separated this into 2 motions because we want you to support replacing this system. And if you don't like the second motion, we would still like to move forward and follow the typical way that we procure building engineering systems, which is through Chapter 149. So I'm going to give you my second presentation on the second motion and then answer any questions. So, in the second motion, we are seeking your approval to enter into an energy management services contract with Ameresco to assist us with this project. In September of 2021, we released a request for qualifications to identify and select an energy management firm to explore potential town-wide projects. This solicitation process resulted in 10 qualified responses. Members of the Select Board, Finance Committee, School Committee, Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and town staff participated in the procurement process. Amoresco, and I do have representatives here from Amoresco, they were deemed the most advantageous proposal and awarded a contract to conduct an investment-grade audit of our town and school buildings. Our October 2021 town meeting appropriated $75,000 to fund this audit if we choose not to move forward on any projects they identify. And if we do move forward, then that 75 gets used towards one of those projects. So traditionally, our town has appropriated funding for specific capital projects and then procured design and construction services separately under Mass General Law, Chapter 149. That's what we typically have done, or that's what we've done always, I guess I would say. But this would be done under Chapter 25A, Section 11.1, and under this Mass General Law, we're able to procure design and building services using a streamlined process. Unlike Chapter 149, Chapter 25 provides the following advantages. Municipalities may select an energy management firm based on a qualification-based review process, as we did with Amoresco. We are then able to work with the selected vendor to implement various energy efficiency projects. Under Chapter 25A, we are not required to accept low bid, which is a requirement under Chapter 149. This enables our town to have more say on the brand of equipment installed in our buildings. And those of you who attend frequent town meetings have seen that we've had to replace some of those projects or products that we have purchased under 149 in the past. We're not required to hire an owner's project manager, which is required under Chapter 149 when projects are over 1.5 million. Amoresco will provide the design services, oversee project bidding, provide project management services, and they must provide a performance guarantee to ensure their estimated energy savings are achieved. So while we await the results of the investment grade audit, we're recommending that town meeting approve this energy management services agreement with Amoresco as a Phase 1 project to replace the Cameron Center HVAC system, and due to the urgency of a failing system. If town meeting approves, the select board may enter a contract with Amoresco to serve as the general contractor, project manager for this project, and ensure that the proposed equipment is installed and operates as designed. I actually have a placeholder on their meeting Tuesday night if the town meeting approves this to consider entering that contract. Amoresco will conduct an annual measurement and verification process, which is required by the Mass Department of Energy Resources. The fee for this is $2,500 per year. The report provides the basis for the energy savings guarantee, no matter the size or complexity of the project, and protects our town and ensures that Amoresco delivers what they proposed. For this senior center HVAC project, the measurement and verification reporting will include the following. Amoresco will commission the system to ensure it's operating as intended, and then visit the building each year to inspect the equipment and review maintenance records. They will also review all digital records of the equipment operation history, including the settings, run hours, space temperatures, and make recommendations for any changes that are required to maintain or improve savings. They must reimburse us for any shortfalls or equipment needs. Our town may cancel the measurement and verification reporting anytime we choose. However, if we cancel, we won't have the guarantee of projected savings. The Select Board, Finance Committee, Capital Planning Committee, Permanent Town Building Committee, and Clean Energy Committee have all voted in favor of this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Remember, we still have two separate articles, so if we could start by limiting questioning to the first article, which is the replacement of the HVAC system at the senior center, I would appreciate it. George?
George Murray, 14 Haywood Road. I feel like I'm a day late and a dollar short on this comment, but I want to offer a caution about this type of system. I recently had to replace a gas through-the-wall heater for my family room. Thinking I'd play really smart on energy conservation, I decided to go with a Mitsubishi mini-split system, which provides air conditioning and heating, such as this unit is proposed to do for Cameron. The ads in the Boston Globe and other newspapers that I've read said you're going to save 30 to 40% on your energy bills by installing this system. Well, instead of installing a $3,000 heater, I installed a $6,000 mini-split system, and my electrical usage doubled in the winter months, from $200 a month to between $400 and $500 a month for the heating season. I've met with the factory representatives, I've met with a very reputable installer who put the system in, and their bottom line is if you're heating with gas, you're not going to save any money with this system. We're talking about if you're using electrical resistance heating or maybe heating with propane, you're going to save a lot of money with this system. And I'm simply here to tell you that's not the case, and I think we should, and I'm skipping to the second motion now, but I think we should go through that energy management services agreement with an absolute fine-tooth comb with the best lawyers we can get to make sure that we hold them to their projection of the savings that we're going to get. Final comment, when I finally pursued the factory representative to say, well, what about all these savings I'm reading about? He said, oh, that's just marketing. So please be careful.
Madam Moderator, thank you. One thing I want to make clear is this is not about cost reduction. This is about energy savings. So I want to make sure that's clear. We're not looking to save money in cost of the energy we use. It's to convert to electricity.
Thank you, Jody. Just to be clear, my comments were on usage, not cost. Kilowatt hours and gas therms. My gas bill went down by $50, $60 a month. My electrical bill went up by $300 a month.
Thank you, George.
And that's on usage, not on cost. I'm sorry.
Madam Moderator, I'd like Zach Walsh to answer that from Amoresco, if that's okay.
You just introduce yourself, Zach.
Hey, good morning. My name is Zach Walsh. I work with Amoresco. So to address the comment about energy usage and cost, you're correct that by switching from a natural gas-fired heating system to an electric heat pump, it does increase your electric use. You will reduce gas consumption, but you're switching that fuel use over to electric. Now, generally speaking, electricity is more costly for the cost of energy than the cost of gas per cost unit of energy that you get. However, in the case of Cameron Senior Center, the overall HVAC project includes a number of improvements besides just installing the heat pump and converting heat. It also includes improvements to the building control system and modifications to the ventilation system to improve the overall operation of the building. So in combination of all those factors, you will be saving a significant amount of gas. You will be increasing your electric usage at the building, but overall, in terms of dollars for this project, you will be saving cost. Now, our M&V plan will go through, exactly how that is calculated, and that will be reviewable. However, I just wanted to make the point that, yes, generally, the use of electricity for heating will go up when you switch to a heat pump. But part of the town's goal for this project and other projects is to reduce greenhouse gas. And one of the best ways that you can do that is through electrifying your existing heating.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Paul Sawyer, 6 Cherry Lane. This relates to both motions and to the previous question. The heat pump system that's proposed, is it air source or ground source? And I raise the question because there's a tremendous difference in efficiency, but also a tremendous difference in initial cost. So how is the trade-off evaluated?
Zach.
That's a great question, and also true in the points that there are differences in efficiency and cost through the air source and ground source heat pumps. In the case of the senior center, there was a committee that was formed prior to the involvement of Amoresco that reviewed various options, including ground source, air source heat pumps, and they went through an evaluation process to select air source heat pumps using what's called an air-to-water system. So we're using air source heat pumps to take energy out of the air and put it in a new hot water and chilled water piping system to provide heating and cooling in the building. And they decided to do that because using the hot water and chilled water to distribute the heat through the building is the most flexible way that you can do that. So in the future, when the heat pump system reaches the end of the life, if at that time any new technologies are available that are more cost effective than an air source heat pump, it could easily be converted over to a ground source system or some other technology to exist in the future.
Thank you. At the microphone to my right.
Cheryl Longton, Daniel Drive. I have a couple questions. My first question is, how many square feet is the Cameron Senior Center?
Can we get a quick answer on that?
I'm not sure if this is the exact figure, but it's about 15,288 square feet.
It's pretty exact.
Yeah. Give or take 100 square feet.
And how old is the current HVAC system?
It was installed in 2009.
2009.
Yes, and most of that system will remain in place and be reused. It's just the part that has failed is being replaced.
Okay, thank you very much.
The microphone to my left.
Scott Saray, Sassafras Road. I'm concerned about the level of investment in this facility that appears to get little use based on personal observation and the schedule of events. Back in 2009, when we invested $4 million in this facility, that seemed like an awful lot. In 2016, a facility audit was done, which noted that windows were not air sealed, which certainly would affect the efficiency of any HVAC system. So my particular question is, has that issue been remedied?
So I can't speak to the windows. I don't know if there's someone here who can, but I will tell you that our use of the senior center is astronomical. I mean, we have data on that on our website. The programs that we offer and the people that we have pulled in at the direction of Jennifer Claro and the Council on Aging is amazing. So, but is someone here who can speak to the windows? Eric? Eric can speak to the windows.
When he's not operating the clock.
Thank you. Eric Heidemann, Assistant Town Manager. So as Phase 2 part of this project, Amoresco will be looking at weatherization upgrades to our buildings, and they'll be proposing energy conservation measures to address any deficiencies that exist today. So if those windows have not been addressed, they certainly will be in the proposed projects that we intend to bring back in the fall. Thank you.
And that would be at further cost?
That would be considered low-hanging fruit, and we would use the savings generated by those energy conservation measures to help fund other projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Eric Kentner, to amplify on George Murray's point, I've done the calculations for myself, and at least on a residential cost usage basis, heat pumps cannot compete with natural gas. The natural gas is cheaper. Now, if we talk about energy usage over the whole energy cycle, let's remember that the electricity that we're using for the heat pump is largely generated by natural gas and perhaps even worse, fuel oil. So I would ask the town to consider very carefully its usage of the heat pump cycle for this facility.
Jody?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So if we approve the second motion, Amoresco is on the hook for that if it doesn't meet their expectations and their projections. So they would have to write a check to the town for anything that wasn't achieved.
Microphone to my right.
Yes, Madam Speaker, this isn't based on what we're talking about for the senior center. So do you want to call on someone else and then get back to me if we're short on
Sure,
time?
thank you.
Thank you.
To my left.
Heather Fitzpatrick, 13 Shannon Circle. It's my understanding we need to maintain the natural gas system because this won't work under certain temperatures. Can we get verification on that?
Yeah, so that's true. As the outside temperature is reduced, the capacity of a heat pump system reduces. So you can do two things. You can either oversize the system so that it works even at the very lowest temperatures with very few hours a year, or you can size a system based on the typical loads of a building and then use the existing backup system, which is perfectly functional, to continue operation of the heating system throughout the very few hours of very cold temperatures during the year. So for the design for the Cameron Senior Center, we're expecting that the new heat pumps will be able to operate to control or to provide heat to the building down to about 7.5 degrees outside. After that point, you would need supplemental heating from the existing gas system.
Thank you. I also have a follow-up, which I think has been touched on a little bit. But when we talk about the net zero emissions, is that nationally from wherever our electric source is, or is that just Westford? The 6 cars coming off the road, is that in Westford or is that everywhere?
So the carbon dioxide emissions that are projected to be saved from the project are equivalent to the carbon dioxide emissions that 6 cars would produce in a year.
In Westford, or are we just shifting the problem?
Regardless, it's an equivalency to try and help people understand, you know, what type of impact they're making. So we're not actually physically taking cars off the road, but your local emissions will be reduced by the equivalent of 6 cars locally coming off the road.
Okay, thank you. That helps. It's in Westford.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Hi, Liz Sherry, Collinwood Drive. It seems that we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. It seems like we should get the windows fixed before going down this route. I appreciate you want to save energy, but right now people are being crushed financially in our country. And to hear that this isn't about cost savings, it's about energy savings, is kind of disappointing to hear.
Thank you. Microphone to my right.
Marion Harmon, Old Colony Drive. I wanted to ask about solar panels on the roof for Cameron, because as I understand it, the very best way to do this is to get your electricity from solar panels. And there are a number of families in town that have done that. They have heat pumps and they get their electricity through their solar panels on their roof. And in that way, it's extremely energy saving and cost saving.
Do you want to speak to that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So overall, the opportunities for photovoltaic systems, solar, in and on town buildings is going to be included in part 2 of a report, which will be presented to town meeting in October. However, I can comment that we have initially reviewed most of the buildings, and the Cameron Senior Center is not an ideal candidate, just based on the orientation of the building and the amount of space that's available on the roof. There are other locations within town that would be better suited for the amount of, for solar to generate the amount of energy that you need.
To my right, to my left, that's my left.
Kate Hollister, 25 Vinebrook Road. I'm addressing the first part. And at first I thought it was only 1.1 million, but you're saying because we have grants, it's going to be more like 1.5 or more that we're going to be paying for this. So I'd like to know what exactly is going to be going out to bid and what are we going to be getting for this very high amount of money.
Jody.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So the project is estimated at $1.6 million. The Select Board gave us $500,000 from ARPA funds, which is pandemic relief funds, and we were able to obtain a $300,000 grant from the state. So those numbers will bring that number down, but we want to get our final cost estimate before we commit to that number. So the 1.6 is what our estimated cost is, and at this point, we have 800,000 to reduce that by.
Madam Moderator, the question is, what are we going to be putting out to bid for this? What is this, just to buy a heat pump? Is it to buy, I don't know what else, piping, what? How, labor?
The motion specifies that it's for HVAC, energy conservation, and related building improvements at the Cameron Senior Center. So to me, I mean, unless there's a specific question about, are you asking what that means, Kate?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for 1.6 million.
Sure.
Doing.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan Smith, project executive with Amoresco. So the enabling legislation 25A11I, in contrast to the traditional 149 that many communities use to move projects forward, it brings a tremendous amount of value. And if town meeting were to approve the appropriation of 1.1 million, plus the other ancillary benefits, plus we're going to leverage utility benefits to help buy the project down. And if the select board authorizes the board to move forward with the project, the town is going to get a full system upgrade, including an energy management system. In terms of procurement, we do have numbers from both vendors, manufacturers, and contractors. We are going to bid that out, and it's going to be a very clear and transparent process with town leadership. So there is a procurement. We've been selected as a partner, and it's a 20-year partnership, but no stretch of the imagination is it a mandate that you have to do every project with us. We are a tool in the town's tool belt to be utilized at the full discretion of the town. If they want to move forward with us on a particular slate of projects, they have that capability. If they decide to use an alternative procurement, whether it be 30B or 149, it's the full discretion of the town to make that decision. But to answer your question, you are going to get a full system that is going to be, stamped engineered drawings and a full commissioning set that you would have on any other project. So the town gets what it expects, and as a part of the partnership, we're expected to put our money where our mouth is in terms of that deliverable. So it's a great alternative to 149. You're going to get a system delivered. It's not just going to be physical equipment that's going to be sitting there.
Thank you. At the microphone to my right.
Again, it doesn't pertain to what we're speaking of, but it is a very general yet very important question pertaining to this town meeting. And with that said, can you define the word, to me, free money? And is it really free? So I'm looking at free, $34,223. Then I'm looking at, excuse me.
Are you in this motion, or is it?
I'm just trying to figure out where, I don't come to these, but I will be coming more. Cheryl
okay,
McGrath, 3 Jarvis Way.
Are you talking about where it says free cash, where it's?
Yes, where is all this free, where does it come from, if I may?
No,
Yes.
that's okay. It's a great question, and other people also have that question.
Okay.
This article doesn't involve any free cash, but we are going to be coming to other articles that do. Can I ask you to hold your question until we get to those articles?
Yes, thank you very
And please, I'll look for you in the audience.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you for the question. Mike.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just have a comment. 1.1 is in the motion, $100,000 feasibility study, $500,000 from the budget, $300,000 from the state is $2 million for a HVAC system that won't heat all the way in the wintertime by itself. I have a problem spending all this money. For reducing greenhouse gases, we spent $90,000 on a mail truck. I just find that I think there's a better way. Thank you.
Thank you. Denali, I'm going to ask everybody to sort of try to wrap it up. If you have spoken already, look behind you and see if there's someone who hasn't. Let's take a couple more people and then we'll wrap it up.
I haven't spoken on this particular issue, and I would really like to.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Climate change. Climate change. You know, are we going to have a planet? Are our children, are our grandchildren going to have a planet? You know, we're talking about this amount of money, which I grant is a big amount of money. I installed a heat pump last year, and it's costing me more money. I'm happy to pay it because when I pay my electric bill, I know some of it is renewable energy. I know that the electric company is going more towards renewable energy. How much is it going to cost us if our wells go dry? I mean, climate change is a huge impact all across the country. You know that. So I encourage you all to think about the energy savings means helping our planet, slowing down the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Please, let's not lose track of how we're trying to help ourselves and our planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Denali. Before we go to the next speaker, I know it's getting hot out there, and the medical tent asked me to point out that they have sunscreen and water. And remember, there are shade tents around the circumference of the field. And if anyone needs water, please just raise your hand or come up front, and they'll either bring it to you or you can come and get one. Okay? Center microphone.
I'm Ann Miller from Churchill Lane, and a frequent user of the Cameron Center. I love it, but in the exercise classes, I am hot. I cannot get the room cooled off enough to be comfortable, even opening windows and with a fan on. And I work in the thrift store, and I go on Thursday mornings, and I freeze. I have to wear a jacket. We cannot get the room warm enough. So I just leave my 2 bits.
Thank you very much. The microphone to my right.
Hi, Sue Thomas, Old Homestead, and a member of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. I'd just like to take a step back here. We have a failing HVAC system at Cameron, as the previous speaker just noted, that we have to address. And when you're addressing a large multi-year project, we're talking decades, it's always been my understanding that the best economic thing to do is to buy the best system that you can, that has the longest lifespan that you can afford. And the reason all these committees have approved this project across all the disciplines in town is because all of those experts believe that this system will give us the best bang for the buck with the backup of a supplier who's on the hook if it doesn't, to pay us back if we don't meet our energy savings and our carbon goals. So we can have the best of all worlds with this project if we approve both parts of the motion. We can have comfortable seniors who use our Cameron Center virtually round the clock, 7 days a week, and we can maintain their health. We can have a system that has options in the future if technologies change, while keeping our people comfortable and healthy. Cameron is also, I believe, a evacuation center in case of heat waves, which we expect more to happen. It's also a place where people might need to go in the event of the floods and other extreme weather that all of the people in town acknowledge we're having and expect to have. There are people, I believe, who are still struggling with wind damage effects in town at their own residence. So this addresses sort of that larger issue that we're going to pay for, not in dollars right now, but in emergency dollars down the road, in a way that is affordable with the money available through government at the federal, state, and local level right now.
Sorry, I'm just going to ask you to wrap up.
And so I strongly urge you to listen to all the committees who've been examining this issue and vote yes on both motions. Thank you.
The microphone to my left.
Thank you. I'm Rick Posh, 19 Chicory Road. I will not readdress the issues of cost and complexity that I think have been discussed enough. I do have one fact for those interested in greenhouse gas emissions. I hope we do take into account the emissions at the power plant. I have real-time data here from New England ISO that right now the electricity that we are using is about 50% greenhouse gas emitting. That is 44% natural gas and about 6% burning trash and wood pulp. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily?
Emily Teller, 9 Texas Road. I don't think that Chris Karpinski is here today, correct? Because he and my husband have served on this committee along with Paul Fox before he resigned. And Tom has spoken very positively of this whole process. I also think that going with Amoresco is moving the town into the future, like our clickers and our electric vehicles, that the town is working very hard, not the clickers, to become more energy efficient. I have 2 things to say. The first one is Tom and I converted to heat pumps 2 years ago, and we have burned 0 oil in those 2 years. So the cost that we were spending on oil has been reduced to 0, even though some of our electricity is higher. We also participate 100% in the POP plan, and Westford Climate Action worked on getting the select board to increase the contract for the aggregate for residential and business electricity. And in the future, they can also work on the contract, electrical contract for municipal buildings and select that that electricity will be greener. And by that, it means
Emily, I need you to stick to this motion.
Okay, well, sticking to this motion, my second point is the original contract for the HVAC for Cameron was given to the lowest bidder, and the system failed the next month. There was no way to fix that. Using Amoresco will eliminate the town's need to accept the lowest bid. That in itself is probably a reason to go with this contract for the next 20 years. They are the future. They know more than anybody in our town, and their guarantee is pretty significant. Thank you.
Thank you. Last comment to my left.
Thank you. Mike Berlinski, 37 Crown Road. Again, I'm the chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and I'm speaking on behalf of the committee in support of this first motion, the $1.1 million for Cameron Senior Center project, because, as Emily alluded to, we had folks from our committee, other committees, building committee, town staff, look at a variety of options for the senior center HVAC need, and we decided on this project as the best option considering cost, energy savings, greenhouse gas emissions, occupant comfort, convenience, durability of the system. And we all agreed that this system was the best one, taking all of that into account, and so we did support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I think that's enough comments. This also requires a 2/3 vote, so again, we'll be using our clickers. We are voting on the first motion under Article 6, which is the request that the town appropriate $1,100,000 for HVAC energy conservation and related building improvements at the Cameron Senior Center. If you want to vote yes, you're going to press the green 1 button when I tell you the vote is open, and if you want to vote no, you'll press the red 2 button. The vote is now open. Please go ahead and vote. Five more seconds. Okay. The vote is now closed.
It passes. 188 yes, 53 no, 241 total.
The motion passes. The vote is 188 yes, 53 no. Now to the second motion under Article 6, which requests that the town authorize the town manager to enter into an energy management services agreement with Amoresco, Inc., or any other similar entity for the purpose of making energy conservation and energy-related improvements and guaranteeing the projected financial savings from those improvements in the course of the HVAC project discussed in the first motion under Article 6. We've really had extensive discussion. I see Margaret at the microphone. I'll take your comment, Margaret, but unless you have something completely new to say, and if you do, approach the microphone, but if you don't, we'll move on quickly.
Margaret Wheeler, 171 Depot Street. Mine was a question specific to this motion, which is why I held it. 20 years is a long period of time. What happens if Amoresco, the company, gets purchased?
Jody, do you want to answer that? Or perhaps that's a question for town council. Or a combination of the two. Jody Ross.
I'm going to defer to Amoresco. We did ask council this question, and we did get back to the Finance Committee about this, but honestly, I just got back from California, and I don't remember.
Okay.
Again, Dan Smith, Amoresco. So just by way of history, we were founded 22 years ago. In 2010, we became a publicly traded company. If at any point we were acquired by any other entity, they would take on the obligations of Amoresco, the contractual obligations in the partnership. you know, being a publicly traded company, anything can happen, but we've been under the same executive leadership for all 22 of those years. We've got a strong executive committee, and we've got, you know, we've grown from 3 individuals in April of 2000 to, and we're headquartered in Framingham, so we're not far away, to more than 1,200 employees nationally and internationally. So we're a proud company, we're a local company, and if we were to become acquired, the company that acquired us, the expectation is that all the obligations, all the contractual obligations that we've made to our partners, which is, I want to say more than 8,000 projects, maybe 9,000 projects nationally at this point, of all scopes and sizes, would be a part of that as well. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. I would just want to make sure that that wording was in our contract.
At the center microphone.
Thank you. Mike Berlinski, 37 Crown Road. Again, speaking on behalf of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, we fully support this motion as it is one of the best actions the town can do to dramatically improve energy use, energy cost, and greenhouse gas emissions in the municipal buildings. The audit of government buildings and school buildings that includes looking at solar systems on those buildings is one of the best actions that the town can do. And so we are very excited for all of the work to find this vendor and to work with this vendor on that audit and that contract. Thank you.
Thank you. The microphone to my left.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Dylan O'Connor, 3 Lambert Way. The representative from Amoresco's response partially answered, I think, the earlier question, which is the assignability of the contract. Were they to be acquired by somebody else, the acquirer would take on the responsibilities of Amoresco. The question, though, I think is, would that event allow the town to terminate the contract if they wanted to?
The town can terminate the contract at any point it deems necessary.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mark?
I think.
I'm sorry, Lisa?
Lisa Nakash in Holsburg, 6 Betty Lane. I almost wish we were looking at a contract that was straight money for services and no guarantee for payouts or anything, because the perchlorate expense we voted on earlier today has to do with us taxpayers funding what someone else went bankrupt for and couldn't continue funding. So we've already experienced these situations where companies make promises and then they're not there to keep them anymore. Now, I have no idea what happens with Amoresco in the future. I'm sure they're a great firm. Hopefully they'll be around forever. I'm not really speaking to for or against this right now. What I'm asking is the town, I'm asking the town via town council, how do we protect ourselves in terms of we lay out the cash and then if there's a bankruptcy, what are we left with? Do we have any answers on that? I guess really what I'm asking is, did we look at options for just paying for the services and having accountability for the services rather than looking for some promise that we don't know about?
Jody Ross.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So just to be clear, the 20-year contract is for them to assure that we achieved our energy savings that they projected. So if they went bankrupt and that ended, it means that they wouldn't continue to monitor that and guarantee it. But hopefully, this project's going to go along perfectly well, and we're going to achieve the energy savings that we're banking on. And at some point, we may decide we don't need to continue to pay them to analyze it every year. So I don't know if that helps or not.
We're going to have town council address it as well. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Good morning through you, Madam Moderator. So if Amoresco is to at any time go into bankruptcy or should fail to fulfill its financial obligations to the town would have the same remedies available to it that it would have against any other contractor or that any other parties would have in that situation. And so if Amoresco were to go into bankruptcy, the town would be a creditor in bankruptcy and would get in line with the other creditors. Of course, no one can guarantee what's going to happen in the future, but the contract is written in such a way that all of the town's rights would be preserved in the same way that they would with any other contractual obligation.
Thank you, Greg. Mark.
Yeah, Mark Koss, 7 Grassy Lane. So just a follow-up question. On the opt-out parts of the agreement, can somebody just tell me, is it a 30-day, 60-day, 6-month notification period, 1, and then 2, whatever, are there any ongoing obligations that the town has once we have the, put in place the opt-out clause?
So my understanding is you're asking if the town elects to terminate the contract, how much notice do they have to give?
How much notice and what are the obligations the town would have once they give that notice?
Can somebody answer that?
So the town can exercise its termination of the contract at any time. So once we receive the notification, it's received in writing. It's sent to both us, our respective councils, the Department of Energy Resources, and at that point, the contract is essentially terminated. One of the, in terms of obligations, the equipment that's installed is going to be operated and maintained by the town facilities team of Westford anyway. But those obligations to maintain the equipment and the scheduled maintenance will continue on with the town as it is historically done. One of the best benefits of 25A, I served as a select board member in my town of Easton for a number of years and have done this for a while. And one of the most frustrating parts of 149 in Chapter 30B, it's the low bid, low value, not getting the equipment that you anticipated getting. That was incredibly frustrating for me. One of the great benefits of 25A is the equipment selection and that reassurance that the town leadership gets what it intends to get. I don't think that could be underscored enough as a part of this process in comparison to the other. But yeah, so to answer your question, that once the formal notification is received and the paperwork is shared with the Department of Energy Resources, the contract's terminated.
Thank you. Last question to my left.
Madam Moderator, Arnold Price on Oak Hill Road. I was going to move the question.
Oh, right on time, Ernie. Okay, this vote only requires a majority, so we are back to orange cards. Does everybody still have their orange card? Okay, so if you are in favor of the second motion under Article 6, authorizing the town manager to enter into an energy management services agreement with Amoresco or any other similar entity for the purpose of making energy conservation and energy-related improvements and guaranteeing the projected financial savings from those improvements in the course of the Cameron Hvac project, raise your cards now. All right, down, please. If you are opposed, please raise your cards. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. All right. We are now on Article 7. And under Article 7, I have a motion to transfer the sum of $505,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund for the construction of a new fire training facility at 60 Forge Village Road, and to transfer the sum of $75,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to establish a special purpose Capital Stabilization Fund for the possible future relocation of the training tower. Is there a second to the motion? Thank you. Scott Hazelton, the Select Board, will make a presentation.
Actually, I'm wearing my Town Farm Task Force hat. So the 35 Town Farm Task Road has asked this article to be put on the warrant to once more support the Town Farm project. Our task force was created by the Select Board in the spring of 2019. They asked to find a new purpose for the former Town Farm buildings at 35 Town Farm Road. As we reported to town meeting in 2020 and 2021, we've created a plan that the Select Board has unanimously endorsed to transform both the 1837 and 1900 Town Farm buildings into truly affordable senior housing and a new home for the Westford Food Pantry. The Select Board put out an RFP in January 2021, and the Chelmsford Nonprofit Choice and the development partner, SG Development Partners, were chosen for the project. At the fall 2021 town meeting, voters approved the transfer of CPA, Historic Preservation Funds, to allow the renovation of Town Farm to retain the historic integrity of the existing buildings. Also at the 2021 fall town meeting, we explained to you, the voters, the need to build an adequate fire training facility for our fire department to replace the outdated and unusable cement training tower that's right smack in the middle of the parking lot of Town Farm, which must be moved for the Town Farm housing development to begin. We explained that Choice and SCG will be paying the town $580,000 for Town Farm when it takes ownership of the property, which we think will be in October of 2024. At that point, they should have all the necessary permits from the town and the funding from the state and federal housing programs. The fall 2021 town meeting approved a resolution to earmark that payment for the new fire training facility. So today what we're asking town meeting is to appropriate $580,000 to allow the fire department to create a new fire training facility as soon as this fall on a small part of the land that is owned by the water department at 60 Forge Village Road. An RFP was issued last month and bids are in hand. When Choice takes ownership of the Town Farm property in 2 years, they will pay the town $580,000, and that money will go into the town's free cash account and reimburse Westford for the money appropriated today. Similar financing was done, as you might recall, for the purchase of 63 Main Street, and the general fund was reimbursed when that house was sold to the Grandine family last year. So we ask your support for the 35 Town Road Task Force and Westford Fire Department with a vote yes on this motion. Thank you.
So before we go to questions, it's sometimes confusing to understand what pot of money things are coming from. So Dan, I wonder if you could give a very brief explanation as to where this money is coming from. What does it mean to say that it's coming from the Capital Stabilization Fund?
Good morning. So the Capital Stabilization Fund was created many years ago by town meeting. It's essentially, the town has appropriated funds, mostly from free cash, to set aside for capital for special projects such as this.
So while you're up there, can you explain free cash?
I can't explain free cash. This is an amount that's certified by the state each year. It's essentially any unspent money below what was appropriated that gets turned into free cash at the end of the year, and any revenue in excess of the budget is also converted into free cash. So we keep replenishing our free cash from year to year, and that amount that's certified is available to appropriate at town meeting for special projects.
Thank you very much. Okay, question, center microphone.
Yes, Bob Carter, 8 Nutting Road, and if I count correctly, I have 3 questions. Can we hear from the water commissioners on how they voted for this and what, if any, concerns that they had? How was the $75,000 for the stabilization arrived at? We've spent far more of that with perchlorate remediation and certainly across Massachusetts, we have water contamination from fire training facilities due to foam usage. And then could we also hear what are the existing problems with the current tower that's over on that property that it hasn't been used in, since it was built 25 or 30 years ago? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have someone from the Water Department who can answer? Thank you.
The water department did vote to approve this, and we also voted to approve the additional $75,000 stabilization in the case that this might have to be removed in the future. And that would be if we needed the land for any water department purpose in the future.
Can I just ask that you identify yourself, Hugh?
Hugh McGuire, 127 Cold Spring Road.
And you are on the
Chair of the Water Commission.
Thank you. Does that answer the Water Department question?
What did the Water Commission do in regards to arriving at the $75,000 figure? How was that arrived at? We've spent far more than that on perchlorate remediation.
The $75,000 is simply an estimate in the cost to move the fire facilities to allow us to do something else.
So are there any restrictions on chemicals that can or cannot be used in this training to prevent groundwater contamination?
Okay, I want to avoid a back and forth. If you have a question, which I think you did ask your question.
Yeah, and those are the essences of how do we arrive at this? This is good use to protect our water sources. Thank you.
Okay. Steve Cronin.
Yep, sure. Steve Cronin, Director of Public Works. So the agreement that the water commissioners have with the town restricts the activities that can be done on this parcel. All the stormwater runoff and all the training runoff is going to be completely self-contained, pumped and treated off-site. So they're very limited into what they can do, what type of Class A burns that'll be allowed to happen, when they'll be allowed to happen. There'll be no chemicals used in training on the site. The $75,000 relocation cost was arrived at with the assistance of the engineering department and is really just for the relocation of the facility. There are stipulations in the agreement that require any of the soil that's going to be used in the construction to remain on site, so that if they have to restore the site, they can use it and we wouldn't need to purchase new soil.
Thank you, Steve. And we have Fire Chief Targ here to answer the questions about the facility.
The existing facility was built, at the time the wrong concrete was used. We weren't allowed to do burns in the building, but we use it for other training activities. The reason we're moving is because the town farm wants to expand in the parking lot, so we need to relocate.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this? Oh, I see someone coming to the mic. Thank you, at the center microphone.
Thank you. Derek Lowe, 77 Forge Village Road. I was wondering if the facility were to be relocated, would we need to spend additional funds beyond the $75,000 you're asking for in terms of relocation?
Either Scott Hazelton or Steve Cronin, one of you. Don't fight over it.
Probably yes. So there's actually two pieces to this fire training facility. One is the sort of ground engineering, the paved space, the containment of the water runoff. And the second is training modules. They're actually basically 40-foot containers. We're looking at, I think, 3 of them that we placed there. So those we can relocate someplace else to be paid for, but there will probably be some cost over and above $75,000 to put new facility engineering-wise someplace else in town. The $75,000 is to put that property back to the way it was, not to build a new facility.
Yeah, I just wanted to make clear whether additional funds would need to be spent if they got moved and a new facility needed to be put in.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Derek. To my left?
Michelle Martin, Meadow Lane. My question is, what happens to the $75,000 if it is not necessary to move the facility?
Dan, do you want to? Oh, okay. Jody Ross.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So it basically just sits in a stabilization fund. If the water commissioners ever felt comfortable to release that, they would have to come to town meeting, and it takes a 2/3 vote.
All right, seeing no further questions, I'll call for the vote. This is also a 2/3 vote, so we'll be using our clickers. So again, if you want to vote yes on the motion under Article 7 to transfer $505,000 from capital stabilization and $75,000 from capital stabilization for the relocation of the training tower, you'll press the green button. If you want to vote no, you'll press the red button. The vote is open. You can vote now.
Give them 10 seconds.
5 more seconds.
We've lost quite a bit of people. It's fine.
Getting it okay. Anybody else?
Did you hear that?
We can
We're going to switch out your clicker. Yes, Andy, did we ever tell him? You can come right up here. If you come right up here, we'll switch out your clicker.
Where's Andy when you need him? Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Oop.
We have 221 votes.
Okay, voting is now closed.
189 yes, 32 no. The motion carries.
The vote is 189 yes, 32 no. It passes by 2/3 majority. Under Article 8, I have a motion to approve certain recommendations of the Community Preservation Committee. Is there a second to that motion? Thank you. The motion is for the town to appropriate $1,150,386 from community preservation funds for certain projects listed in your pollen-colored motions booklet. There are 8 projects, and I'll read through them as we've done previously. Please say "hold" loudly if you have a question or comment for any particular project, and we'll discuss and vote on it separately. Any general questions on this community preservation motion before we begin? Okay. $332,874 from undesignated fund balance to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. $190,000 from undesignated fund balance for the Conservation Trust Fund for future open space land purchases. $5,940 from undesignated fund balance for the installation of bike racks at various town facilities. $176,450 from undesignated fund balance for the Healthy Lakes and Ponds Treatment and Water Quality Improvement Program. $41,415 from undesignated fund balance for the Jack Walsh Tennis and Basketball Court Improvement Design. $75,000 from undesignated fund balance for Parkerville Schoolhouse roof restoration. $139,707 from undesignated fund balance for the Colonel John Robinson School playground play structure replacement. And $189,000 from the undesignated fund balance for the Robinson tennis courts. I didn't hear any holds on that, and I don't see any questions. So this is a majority vote only. Get your cards ready. All in favor of the community preservation motion, please raise your cards. Down, please. All opposed? Yeah? Did you say one? Okay, the motion passes, it is not unanimous. All right, we're now at Article 9, to amend the wage and classification plan. Under Article 9, I have a motion that the town amend the pay classification plan for non-unionized municipal employees effective July 1st, 2022, in accordance with the table printed in your motions booklet. Is there a second for the motion under Article 9? Thank you. Jody Ross. Oh. She melted. So, you going to do it, Dan? Okay. Dan O'Donnell, jack of all trades.
Good morning again. So the Personnel Advisory Committee did support all these amendments. First up, we have the Recreation Director. We did have a reorganization of our DPW department when Jim Duane left. We moved the Parks and Grounds and Cemeteries over to the DPW department, and we have the position of just Recreation Director. And so we're recommending to move that from a Band 7 to a Band 6. Next up, we have our Assistant Town Engineer. We are recommending to move that from a Band 5 to a Band 6 based on the market. We are recommending a name change for the Director of Environmental Services to the Assistant Health Director. And also, when we looked at the name, we did look at the market, and the pay did reflect a Band 5. And continuing on as part of our DPW refiguration, the operations manager for Parks, Grounds, and Cemetery came out of the union and is being placed on a Band 5. The staff engineer is for stormwater, and again, we're placing that on a Band 4. The sustainability coordinator is a new position, and we are placing that as a Band 4. And as Jody introduced earlier, we do have our new community wellness coordinator, Nicole, and that position is a Band 3. So the next section is just the title changes. Because we have the DPW now and Chip Barrett retired as Highway Superintendent, we're recommending to change the name from Highway Superintendent to Assistant DPW Director. We're looking to change the name from our Principal Assessor to Chief Assessor. Basically, the Principal Assessor is supposed to be on the Board of Assessors, and in Westford we don't do that, so we're just looking to change the title so it's not a requirement. On the next page, again, just to be consistent with the Parks and Grounds and Cemetery Supervisor, we want to change the name of the Highway Operations Supervisor to the Operations Manager for Highway. And then below that, we're looking to remove a couple positions. The first is Budget Director, which was me many, many years ago, so we no longer need this title. And next up is the Administrative Assistant to the Town Manager. That position is now the Project Procurement Specialist, so again, we don't need this position anymore. Thank you.
I don't see any questions or comments. This is, again, a majority vote. Oh, I have a question.
Erica Cole, Francis Hill Road. I'm just wondering about the change from an environmental services director to the health director, and if there's anything, and given the discussions regarding environmental concerns these days, are we losing the skill set or sorry, any of the responsibilities associated with that director? I understand we did hire a sustainability coordinator, but that's being shared with Carlisle, I believe, and that looks like a very, very busy position already. So I'm just hoping to understand if we're losing any responsibilities with that change.
Just introduce yourself, please.
Good morning. My name is Ray Dick. I'm the health director here at the Westford Health Department. That position, the Board of Health members felt that it should have a name change to be more in line with other health departments. That position and job description is exactly the same as the Director of Environmental Services. So we will still have that position and those qualifications will remain the same.
Thank you. At the microphone to my right.
Hi, good morning. Cynthia King, Depot Street. I just have a question about the Community Wellness Coordinator. Is that a new position, and what do they do?
Jody has reappeared.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I can't believe there were no questions for CPA, so thank you, Dan. It's because Tootie's right here in front. But so this Community Wellness Coordinator position was created out of the Town and School Safety Task Force that has been in existence for 2 or 3 years now. And that task force determined that we really didn't have a person that would pull together all the resources that our residents might need for mental health and wellness. And so they strongly felt that we should get someone focused on that. And it's brand new. We just hired Nicole, who I introduced this morning. The Select Board did fund it for 1.5 years out of ARPA funds, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it's really to try to help where there's something missing in our town. We felt there was a void there in someone pulling together those resources. It could be substance abuse issues, mental health, as I said, domestic violence. I mean, all those kind of social matters that we felt we could do a better job. So that's why this was created. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone to my left.
Hi, James Coaches, 34 Forge Village. Just a question. In this market where it's extremely difficult to find the right people for the right role, I noticed a couple of those things were step decreases. Are we taking money away from people that are actively serving in these roles today? Not to mention cost of living increases, everything else going on.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Are we taking money away from people that are actually serving in these positions today?
No, we are not. Whenever someone leaves the town's employment, and I will say I've had more people retire than I've ever had in my entire career, we reevaluate that job before we fill it. So we do a careful market analysis, but no one was brought down. And it did result, I'm not sure Dan mentioned this, but in some of these changes we made, we saved about $60,000 in the reorg. So that's always a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions, I'll call for the vote. This vote requires a majority. All those in favor, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? That is unanimous. If I say it's unanimous and you have your card up, please correct me because it's a little hard to see everybody, but that one was unanimous. Thank you. Okay, under Article 10, I have a motion to establish limitations on expenditures from certain town revolving funds. Is there a second to that motion? Thank you. I'll read through the list. Please say hold if you have any questions. Lease of town buildings, 65 and 73 Main Street and 170 Plain Road, $150,000. Electric vehicle charging station, $10,000. Recycling, $40,000. Recreation field maintenance, $150,000. Senior center fitness room, $25,000. Senior center programs, $50,000. School parking, $80,000. School bus transportation, $800,000. East Boston camps maintenance, $80,000. Immunization and clinical services, $75,000. Community gardens, $15,000. Town forest management, $25,000. Seeing no questions or holds, I'll call for the vote. This is a majority vote. Sorry. I'll be better when we get back inside. Sorry about that. Which are you speaking to?
Vehicle
electric-
charging station.
All right.
Jeff Sherman, Fairview Drive. Just simple question. With the charging stations, are we thinking a particular brand of chargers? Is it Tesla Super Network, or are we going more generic?
Eric, do you want to answer? Eric Heidemann, Assistant Town Manager.
So we have a more generic system in place now with the 3 locations that were mentioned earlier being Town Hall, Abbott, and Westford Academy. If you haven't used them yet, we use a software called Amp Up, which is something you can download on your smartphone and then just scan the QR code when you go to the chargers.
Awesome, thank you.
Seeing no other questions?
Now I have a question. Sorry.
Sorry.
I was at Town Hall the other day, and I saw all the charges, and the questions came up about, I really didn't know, I knew we paid for those. Are the people that are using those paying for them? You mentioned the QR code.
Yes, so we do not provide any free charging. So we currently have the rate set at 25 cents per kilowatt hour. Depending on which vehicle make and model you have, it may take a longer time to charge your battery. The select board will be discussing the rates once we receive the first bills, once we get a full understanding of how much the town is being charged for the electricity.
Yeah, I think we should know how much we're making from them, and if we're going to give $10,000 more, why aren't we generating an income from what we have to pay for it?
Just maybe explain the revolving fund.
Sure, and I might have left out an important part. So all 3 of those sites were fully funded by grants through the Mass EVIP program and National Grid, so there was no cost to the town. We do have an annual expense to connect to the network for us to be able to use AMP Up. So we decided to establish or request to establish the revolving fund to be able to better track expenses related to the charging stations, which would be the annual service contracts, and then any revenue that comes in from users using them will offset the revolving.
Do you have a percentage of how much the town would make from this long-term?
So we do anticipate it's going to be a slow start as more and more people begin to buy electric vehicles. As of right now, I think we've only brought in less than $100 in revenue since they were installed. But we do anticipate that number to increase. So for the first few years, it's likely that the annual service contracts will have to be funded through the operating budget because we won't have sufficient funds in the revolving to cover the bills.
Thank you.
Same microphone.
Sue Thomas, 7 Old Homestead. 2 things. I wondered if you could address Madam Moderator's suggestion to explain what a revolving fund is, and I'd like to put a hold for an explanation of what the Town Forest Management Revolving Fund funds. Thank you.
Dan?
Okay, so these are revolving funds, which all we're voting on here today is the expenditure limit for each fund. Each of these funds has a revenue source that goes directly into it, and that money can be spent up to this expenditure limit. So if we don't have $10,000 in the account, we can't spend $10,000. Those accounts cannot go negative. So these are just self-supporting accounts that we use as a tool to fund certain programs.
Thank you. And what was your question on the town forest management?
I just wondered if someone could explain what it funds and, what money comes in and what money goes out in terms of the revenue source and the items funded.
Looks like Steve's here ready to go.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep, so this account is managed by the Town Forestry Committee. It's basically for the horticulture management of town forest parcels, such as the parcel off Gage Road or the one off Cold Spring Road. Typically, this is to collect the revenue from forestry projects, and then that revenue is used to pay the forester that helps us develop the program.
All right, thank you. Microphone to my left.
Rose O'Donnell, Sassafras Road. A question about the East Boston camps. Sorry, I didn't put a hold on it. Can I ask if this is the same amount as last year?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions. This requires a majority vote. All in favor of establishing the limitations on the revolving funds as set forth in the motion under Article 10, please raise your orange cards. Okay, down, please. All opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we're now at the budget article. We'll try and get through as much of this as we can, even though I'm starting to smell the food. Do you guys smell the food from the food truck? That's why I've been distracted. Okay, under Article 11, I have a motion that the town raise and appropriate $126,569,270 for the fiscal 2023 operating budget for the town of Westford, along with certain other appropriations as printed in your motion booklet. Is there a second to the motion? Thank you. Jody Ross, Town Manager.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So I did a State of the Town, which is online, westfordma.gov. I'm going to give you a very brief recap. The pandemic continued, but we're managing as we have all our procedures in place. We've been working with residents and local businesses to assist where possible. We have several new businesses in town. They are on my website, on our website in this report if you want to check them out. We also have a number of new senior affordable housing developments, both recently constructed and planned or in planning right now. You'll hear more about a proposed new municipal building at 51 Main and the library expansion project and a possible new recreation facility at our fall town meeting. Between CARES Act, FEMA, American Rescue Plan Act, which we call ARPA, and School CARES Act funds, our town has and will receive about $10.9 million of additional state and federal funding due to the pandemic. So that has helped significantly. In creating this fiscal year 23 budget, we did adhere to the Select Board's fiscal year 23 budget policy direction, maintaining the level of services we currently provide you and also sustaining our infrastructure through capital improvement. Our revenues are increasing, I'm happy to say. Our state aid is up slightly. Motor vehicle excise is up. Hotel and meals excise is up. Licenses and permits are up. And recreation enterprise is up. That's all good news. So far this year, we have received over $1.4 million in grants. New revenues are $3.3 million. After fixed costs, we had $2.35 million to share with the schools, and we did so at 27% for town departments and 73% for schools. We have a balanced budget. We also maintained our AAA rating with Standard & Poor's. When we asked the town to submit their budgets, which we do annually in August, we did end up reducing those requests by $735,000, and the overall budget increase is 2.87%. Our reserves are healthy at $7.89 million, or 6.7% of our operating budget. Today, we requested $6 million in capital, which you did approve. If you recall, during the past year, we created a health insurance trust. So now we are partially self-insured for health insurance. This saved us $766,000 in this fiscal year 23 budget. So we were able to use that for other reasons. Thank you. So all in all, we are in good shape. We need to be cognizant of funding recurring expenses with ARPA funding due to the need to fit these items in future budgets if we want to continue them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Christina Green is the chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Excuse me. Good morning. My name is Christina Green, Chair of the Finance Committee. The role of the Finance Committee is to represent you, town meeting, in all financial matters of the town. We are pleased to tell you that the town has once again balanced its budget for fiscal year 23. There are many areas in which the town has made smart decisions to increase efficiencies. These include the recent creation of the Department of Public Works, moving responsibilities of Parks and Grounds and Cemetery departments to the Department of Public Works, centralizing building maintenance of several town buildings, the installation of electric vehicle charging stations at 3 locations in town at no cost to the taxpayer due to grant awards, the selection of the town's first electric vehicle for the school's Courier, continued commitment of the police department to purchase hybrid police cruisers with significant fuel, maintenance, and greenhouse gas emission savings. Energy efficiency audit agreement with Ameresco to increase the efficiencies and reliability of town buildings, which will be coming in the fall. And moving the town to partially self-funded health insurance as of March 22. Of course, the overall economy of the U.S. is not rosy, as you are all well aware. Inflation is on the rise. This could impact supplies, equipment, and other purchases in fiscal 23. As always, this will be monitored by the Finance Department, the Town Manager's Office, Select Board, and Finance Committee on a continual basis throughout the fiscal year so that we can make adjustments if necessary. The Westford Finance Committee will continue to exercise its oversight responsibilities in a conscientious manner to ensure that the resources provided by our taxpayers are prudently spent. We welcome your participation at our meetings. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me. My email can be found on the town website. The Finance Committee wishes to commend the town manager, the select board, and each of the town department heads for their diligence, cooperation, and transparency in meeting the FY23 budget challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, let's chat for just a moment about how we'll go about voting on the budget. As you can see, if you look at page 10 of your pollen-colored motion booklet, each department, office, or category of our town government is listed, followed horizontally across the page by 5 columns. The numbers we will be working with are the bolded totals in the 3rd column labeled Fiscal Year 2023 Town Manager and FinCom Recommended. These are the numbers you're being asked to vote on. I'll read through the list of departments along with the totals for each. If you have a question about any of them, please say loudly hold and hold up your card so I can see you. I think would be better. We'll discuss and vote on that item separately if it's got a hold. Otherwise, we'll vote on the items to which no hold was raised. Before we get to page 10, please take a look at page 9, where you'll see the 8 items in the budget excluded from the rest of the budget because they are either partially or entirely funded by sources other than tax dollars, this year's tax dollars. We'll vote on those items first. I'll now read through them. Please say hold loudly if you have any questions or wish to make any comment on a particular item. Are we ready? Okay. For the general fund, $100,000 from overlay surplus. For the general fund, $3,228.54 from fund balance designated for debt exclusion reduction. For the community preservation fund, $1,079,350 from community preservation fund fiscal 2023 revenue. For the town revolving funds, $3,000 from the senior center fitness room revolving 53E&1/2. For the water enterprise fund, $4,120,320 from water enterprise revenue and $518,905 from water enterprise retained earnings. For the recreation enterprise fund, $1,247,100 from recreation enterprise revenue, $75,000 from recreation enterprise retained earnings, and $34,705 to be raised and appropriated. For the ambulance enterprise fund, $850,000 from ambulance enterprise revenue, $25,000 appropriated from ambulance enterprise retained earnings, and $589,944 to be raised and appropriated. For the stormwater enterprise fund, $662,732 from stormwater enterprise revenue, and $600,000 to be raised and appropriated. Seeing no holds on those items, I'll call for the vote. This requires a majority vote. All in favor of those items, please raise your orange cards. Put them down. All opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Okay. Let's see, what time is it? 11:51. We'll begin with the rest of the budget as shown, starting on page 10 of your motions booklet. Again, please say hold if you have any question or comment on the following. Under general government, for the select board, $26,306. Town manager, $462,985. Finance committee, $134,065. Finance department, $160,765. Town accountant, $347,098. Board of Assessors, $363,838. Treasurer collector, $333,693. Legal services, $140,000. Human resources, $681,463. Technology, $926,993. Town clerk, $269,999. Permitting department, $325,257. Conservation Commission, $93,418. Planning Board, $110,724. Zoning Board of Appeals, $2,595. Town Hall Maintenance, $102,842. Public Buildings and Properties Maintenance, $244,694. Under Public Safety, Police Department, $6,015,845. Public Safety Communications, $915,239. Fire Department, $4,232,529. Building Department, $411,691. Sealer of Weights and Measures, $3,000. Emergency Management, $11,960. Animal Control, $45,442. Tree Warden, $37,357. Let's stop there. Seeing no holds, all in favor of those items as read, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Moving on. Under education, Westford Public Schools, $63,961,692. Neshoba, is that a hold? Okay. Neshoba Tech, $1,295,205. Under Public Works, $259,489 under the Department of Public Works. Engineering Department, $327,869. Highway Department, $2,662,472. Recycling, $541,027. Solid Waste, $1,507,588. Wastewater Treatment Management, $224,430. Cemetery Department, $141,919. Under Health and Human Services, Board of Health, $468,738. Council on Aging, $577,977. Veterans Services, $143,255. Under Culture and Recreation, Library, $1,807,220. Parks and Grounds, $310,389. Land Management, $47,916. Historical Commission, $11,950. Let's stop there. All in favor of those just read, which was everything but the Westford Public Schools, please raise your orange cards. All right, down please. All opposed? That is unanimous. Okay, can the person with the question, Mark, about the Westford Public Schools?
Yeah, Mark Koss, 7 Grassy Lane. So I have a formal request for the school committee, the finance committee, and the select board ahead of the October special town meeting related to the school's budget. So in the finance committee book, on page 5, it talks about non-tuition funded full-day kindergarten. So this isn't a comment I have about the policy. It's more about the financial planning for it. In the book, it talks about the school administration has expressed confidence that when the funding bridge ends in FY26, the full-day program will be incorporated into the school's FY27 budget without strain because of a diminishing school population at the higher grades. And while I appreciate the administration's confidence, at the end of the day, it's the school committee's responsibility, not the administration. So I would like to see, which I've been advocating for a long time, the same kind of 5 to 10 year strategic planning financial process that the town goes through on its own departments, as well as with debt service. I personally am not confident, given what has transpired in the past, that this will automatically kind of fit into the budget in 26 or 27 without an in-depth look. So I'm perfectly fine with the budget for this year, but it's a formal request that in October we have a report out and some analysis done on the impact of the full-day kindergarten in particular.
If I'm hearing correctly, it's a comment, not a question, right?
That's correct. It's
All
a
right.
comment, not a question.
Any other comments or questions about the school budget? All right, seeing none. All in favor of line 300, the Westford Public Schools, $63,961,692. Please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Okay, we are going to break for lunch now. There's been a little change in plans before you get up. Please return your clickers to the tables in the back, unless you're going to sit right here for an hour and 15 minutes, right? If not, if you're going to get food at the food truck, which really smells great, or if you're going anywhere else, please return your clickers to the tellers and pick up new ones when you come back. We're going to break until 1:15. Please all come back. We still have a good bulk of the budget and various other articles to do. Thank you very much for your attention.
The tellers will be at the exit, not at their table.
I'm sorry, the tellers are going to be at the exits to pick up your clickers. They'll have boxes at the exits if you leave. Thank you.